The household maximum you get what you pay for applies in spades to the Vivitar Vivicam S131 digital camera, although on paper the $70 point-and-shoot camera seems like a reasonable deal with its 16.1 megapixel sensor, as well as a 2.7-inch touchscreen display. Unfortunately, on paper, the Vivitar S131 is hampered by a poor lensing technology, which allows the device to have very blurry and out-of-focus images, and the manufacturer, although it states it's capable of shooting 720p HD video, in practice, the video quality is blurry, out of focus, and colors are unsaturated, and also the audio quality is extremely poor. Still, if you're looking for something that you want to manually adjust and take a few occasional pics for, and also something extremely inexpensive for you to take perhaps at a day at a beach, then the S131 is a valuable choice for its low cost and customizable options. The camera actually comes in two color iterations. It comes in both black and white. The white version you can see here comes with a xenon flash on the top, as well as a lens that's dominated with the 5.1 mm focus with a 2.8 lens. The back of the device, again, has a 2.7-inch touchscreen, but unfortunately it houses a resistive technology, which means that you have to really press in with your fingernails, unlike capacitive screens, which most modern-day smartphones uses. And as a result, the touchscreen is very difficult to navigate, as you will see in a second in the menu navigation. The bottom of the device features a tripod stand and a slot for you to put in an SD or a SDHC card for expanding the built-in memory. The left-hand side device features a three AAA batteries for you to power the unit. Speaking of, the battery life on this device is also on the lower side of the spectrum. It uses the batteries relatively quickly, and after taking a dozen or so images, the battery life actually fell to only 2 out of 3 grids. This is a little bit troubling because if you are a day-to-day consumer and purchase ordinary batteries instead of rechargeable AAA batteries, this will use up quite a lot of battery power as well as quite a lot of money over time. The top also features a speaker port and an audio port for recording video content. The left-hand side device features a mini USB port for you to connect the camera to a computer to actually sync up information and photos. It also includes a macro to micro lens mode for you to automatically select those settings. The S131 does not feature autofocus as a camera setting, so you have to actually manually focus on all your different settings, which is part of the reason why the device is not very intuitive and not suited for day-to-day consumers. Again, if you are good at photography, you probably can get some decent shots out of the 16.1 megapixel sensor, but that said, day-to-day consumers will find it to be a struggle to focus in correctly from macro to micro lensing swapping. The top device features a power on and off swap port, as well as a one-stage camera shutter key and a lanyard strap, which is included in the box. As you can see from the portfolio of this camera, it's actually quite thick and clunky. That said, the device is made out of plastic and doesn't feel too cheap in the hands. Still, it's going to be a struggle to fit into tight jean pockets. The back device, again, is dominated by that modern-looking one-piece display, which is fairly large and vibrant. However, the display is kind of difficult to see under direct sunlight because it glares like crazy, and it's definitely a fingerprint magnet. Also, like we said, it's not very responsive to the menu navigation interface. The back only features one button, which is the Vivitar Home button. This takes you to a carousel of only 6 icons, which is pretty intuitive and easy to use. You can select through settings, the slideshow, the power off, playback, video, and the camera applications. In the camera itself, you can select through zooming in and out for panning modes. There's also a few settings for the resolution, for the color saturation, for the night modes, and also the settings such as night scenery, high sensitivity, beach, portraits, and scenery, and also auto, which is just it's going to automatically adjust the scene. The resolution can also be adjusted in the menu key that you can see on the bottom here. There's also a section for you to turn on the flash. However, flash is not enabled in the close-up shots, as you can see here, for good reason. There's also a Vivi Link feature, which allows you to take images and directly upload them when you connect them to a PC to Picasa Images, Vivitar's MySpace, Flickr, PhotoBucket, Twitter, and also Facebook. And these are actually a pretty easy to use application, and one of the reasons to perhaps take a closer look at this camera out of the menu. Down below here, you also have access to a scene selection mode, the menu application, which allows you to bring up your full list of applications. Now you can see here how if you have to slide through different pages, it won't recognize your touches unless you press a little bit firmer because this is a resistive touchscreen. And some additional features includes metering, ISO settings, exposure, sharpness, and color saturation, including sepia, standard, monochrome, and vivid. If we go to monochrome, for example, there's also a face detection mode for taking self-portraits and an anti-shake sensor. Additionally, there's a resolution setting for you to change your resolution from 16 megapixels all the way down to VGA resolution if you want to conserve your memory on your SD card. There's also a quality for the sharpness and the setting for the self-timer. As far as the settings are concerned, they do work fairly well, but you can see here we are in macro mode right now and how it's very difficult to focus into subjects extremely well. There's going to be a lot of blurriness, and even though there is stabilization, we found that it's not too stable, at least in the video recording modes. So for example, we have a battery right here. We're going to take an image. You can see how the angle of the lens is very narrow, and it actually zooms in extremely far, unlike most cameras. So you have to really get away from the subject to take a decent shot. But once you have that, a few centimeters away will do the trick, and you can take an image fairly quickly with a 16 megapixel camera sensor. So the shutter speed is actually fairly respectable and fast on this particular unit. Now the same can't be said about the video quality like we talked about. Video quality is choppy, not very responsive, and in direct sunlight there is a huge issue with actually the playback rates. So if we take a look at some shots that we took on, the image quality itself is actually not too bad. Sometimes it can get pretty blurry, and low light conditions are actually quite terrible, to be honest, as you can see here. But if you get the correct focus, it takes a little bit longer than traditional cameras like point and shoots because of the manual focus instead of autofocus, but it still works. However, in direct sunlight, the colors tend to be more washed out, and in direct darkness, things are also difficult to see. And if we take a closer look at some images like the filters we talked about, monochrome and sepia tend to work actually pretty well. It's also a nice little handy tool that you can have without directly having to use Photoshop for those elements. Now you can see here how the xenon flash in darker environments tends to wash out images and pictures. In real life, this flower is a lot more vibrant, but you can see how everything is kind of washed out, almost monochrome looking, thanks to the flash, which is very inconvenient. It isn't just the resolution of the screen either. When uploaded to a PC, although the images tend to look good at first, when you start zooming in into the images, the resolution is lost and the detailing is lost. So the flash is extremely bright and a little bit too bright for the camera's good. So if we take a look at the video quality, however, it's the most disappointing facet of the camera. At 720p, you'd expect the video quality to be very decent, but audio quality is barely audible, especially if you plug it into a computer. And then you can see how the colors and everything is extremely off. This is actually shot on a bright sunny day, but when expanded to a larger screen on your PC, the resolution is all choppy with blocks. And also you can see how the trees and the detailing is extremely lost. And there's a lot of flickering going on as well, which is not reminiscent at all. In fact, we reckon that the resolution was around 240p if we had to guess without knowing this was actually HD resolution. Also, you can see how the stabilization isn't as good as it claims. The saving grace for the actual camera video recording abilities is the fact that it actually shoots, it allows you to actually manually focus in the middle of a camera shot. So for example, we're in the wide angle mode right now. We can also go into the close range mode just by adjusting the macro to micro settings on the sides, and it's actually going to work directly in the video itself, which you can see right now, which is at least better than some video cameras, which allows you to not focus anymore once you start taking an image or a video in this instance. So overall, again, this device is a very basic point-and-shoot camera at 16.1 megapixels. It seems to be, a large amount of pixels on camera, but on paper. But you have to take note that this device is actually not as good as it probably sounds based on its spec sheet. Still, if you're looking for something inexpensive, something to play around with, it could do the trick. But we really would recommend you to spend the money elsewhere, perhaps at a more expensive brand name camera, which provides better image quality and at least features autofocus for you to use on day-to-day usages. If you are a regular consumer looking for an easy-to-use camera, we have to say this S131 is probably not the one for you. Thanks for watching this video review here at osmptxreviews.com. This has been the Vivitar Vivicam S131 16.1 megapixel touch digital camera.